All right, let's get going. We are recording. I'm here with my good buddy, Matt James. Matt, you're a young guy. How old are you?
Just turned 33.
33. Yep. And you have one of the craziest stories, I think,
thank you.
of any investor I've met. And you're a very humble guy, but it's a very crazy story. Just from everything you've been through and everything you've done. And you're very humble about it, but it's quite impressive, man. Like, you always impress me when I hear what you're up to, and you're always pushing the boundaries and doing new things. You've been on the podcast before. How many years ago?
I think at this point it was 4 years ago, possibly 5 even.
Yeah, that was with Tom and with your girlfriend at the time, now wife.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome. So married, you recently had a kid.
Yeah, he's 2 now, and she's pregnant again right now.
Oh, no way. I didn't know.
Baby coming in August.
Oh, congrats, man.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah. It's big life changes. Like, it's the things you just don't know that you get thrown into. It's life changing.
So how did you feel ready to have your first kid, or did you?
Oh, we didn't. Yeah, we just knew that we were getting to an age where we had to. It almost felt like we were getting like we'd set ourselves up financially, and we'd had the home that we'd always dreamed of and stuff. So we just figured it was time. And
there's literally nothing more.
No, that was it.
Than that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I remember when you first came on the podcast, you were talking to Tom about how you started, I think, with weed stock investing.
It was.
That was your first foray?
It was, yeah. So largely, I believe I got lucky just due to the timing of stuff. So we started with just a simple TFSA, and I just started tracking all the different weed stocks that were coming out, like all the different companies, what they were doing, what kind of licenses they were getting, what facilities they were opening, if they had any proprietary knowledge or investments or anything of that nature that would, once announced to the general public, would make their stock price just double overnight, triple overnight. So I had a graph laid out of just how to, try to hit them the night before to be in before the masses went in. And we did really well there. And then that kind of led us into buying real estate. I knew once that was done, we wouldn't be able to duplicate our results again. Mm-hmm. So I was like, we need something a bit more concrete, a bit safer. So we used the proceeds from all that as down payments on a few rental properties, and everything just kind of has grown from there.
And you started with the house hack, right? Was that your first?
Started with a house hack, yeah. So we actually, my girlfriend and I at the time, we bought a house that we knew we couldn't afford. So we were going to live in one unit, renovate the basement in hopefully just a few months. And by the time it was done, we'd be able to have tenants in there that would help us pay our mortgage. So we had enough savings just to cover the first few months. It ended up obviously taking longer than that. And we took a few family loans and that sort of stuff. But eventually we were able to move into the basement, rent the upper unit for more than the basement. It just about covered the property taxes, mortgage, and insurance.
How old were you when this happened?
I think we were 28. No, sorry, 26 at the time. Okay. Yeah, 26 for the first one. Yeah. So yeah, we did that one. And then it was odd. One day the whole road went up for sale. It was all low income housing, and that was when Doug Ford got in for the first time, and he got rid of a lot of the low rise housing like that. Moved everyone into bigger complexes like big apartment buildings and stuff. So yeah, with the whole house, the whole road went up, and we were able to buy 2 more.
So people own these houses that own them?
No, they were renting them from the county. So for us, Orangeville, Dufferin County owned all these houses, so we were able to buy them from Dufferin County at a little bit of a discount, because obviously they were quite run down. They needed a lot of repairs.
All of the houses on the street?
Yeah, like 80% of them. Yeah.
Oh, so wow. We were able to
buy,
you had already just happened to be living on the street.
We happened to be living on the street. So we bought 2 of 10 that went up for sale then. And then we moved into one of them. Again, we were able to rent the basement of the first one, while we then also renovated at the same time the basement of the second one. We then moved, once it was complete, from the top floor to the basement, rented out the top floor, and then started renovating the other side of that semi-detached property from a single family into a duplex as well again. Creating 2 more units, got both of them rented out, and kept going from there.
And then, did you keep moving into properties and repeating this?
We did it once more, yeah. So from there, we moved to 1 more up the road. We bought another 2. So it was a semi-detached. So essentially, we took 2 single-family homes, either side of the semi, and transformed it into almost like a quad.
Yeah.
So it was 2 units up and 2 units down in that one. It still is 2 legal properties. But yeah, we moved into one of those as we renovated the other three. And then from there, we actually bought another primary residence and then turned it also into a duplex as well. So that's been our last move. That's where we've ended up and still are right now. And then from there, we went and bought another property on that road, which is the one that we shot the video at about a year ago or so, turning it also from a single family into a duplex.
Yeah, so I think there's 14 houses on the street.
Yep.
You now own 7 of them.
7 of them, yep. 14 doors.
And are you still planning on buying up the rest of the street, or
if they do come available, yeah,
you'll grab them up?
Yeah, it's going to come down to the numbers. Like the people kind of know that are on the street that we own, like say half or the majority of them. So to selling to us now, they kind of want a premium on it, and it being an investment.
Yeah, they know what you want.
Yeah, ultimately it is an investment. So if the numbers work, sure. But I'm not opposed to going to another street over or something.
No, at this point, you have to stick with this one street, man. You have to buy up the entire street.
That to me.
And then you need to somehow qualify to get the street name changed.
Yeah.
Like that is a must.
Yeah.
You should be able to, for the amount of like extra housing that you're bringing to Orangeville. Yeah. There could be a case there, man.
Yeah, we are increasing the density. And
You're increasing density.
The tax that comes in.
The tax base, property values.
Potentially, I guess I need to find out who I need to talk to about that.
So when you were still first getting the ball rolling, how were you affording to do the renos and to keep buying? At this point, were you able to extract equity and now you had a little snowball?
Yeah, so there was 2 different factors. There was, we started buying in 2018, so we did have the advantage of the market going up quite significantly, kind of pre-COVID and then through COVID as well too. We refinanced some properties multiple times actually to be able to keep rolling the money, the equity from the home equity line of credit from one to the down payment of the next, and then also use some of it from another refinance in order to do the renovation and the duplexing of these properties. But at the same time, I was running an HVAC business. So I was doing a lot of work and really doubling down on that, working some really long hours, just trying to bring in as much income as possible to be able to spend on these, knowing that once they were up and running and generating their own income, I could kind of relax, take a little step back for a bit.
Because this was your trade, right? Was HVAC?
It was.
And then you ended up going self-employed at one point?
That's right, yeah. So I kind of just started learning that just because of being in the trade, you get a really good understanding, even if you're just focused on heating and cooling, you get a really good understanding of electrical and plumbing and all that different stuff and kind of all the mechanics of how a house functions and works, how to best prepare things, how to repair things so they're actually better going forward. So I kind of just took that knowledge and then started applying that to real estate, and it really just benefited us going forward then with these rental properties too, knowing that if a repair happened, not only could I take care of it myself if I needed to, which at the time I did because we were just so strapped for cash with doing all these renovations, we could build it better so that I wouldn't have the same repair over and over again like you can have in some instances.
Mm-hmm. And your girlfriend was obviously on board with all of this?
She was. She probably thought I was a little crazy for sure. But I mean, she saw each house was kind of its own case by case, kind of like, as Tom says, a bit business in a box.
Yeah.
So once you see it rented out, once you see it cash flowing, taking care of itself, if I only need to go every few months to do a small repair or, something happens, largely it's kind of hands off, and you can use that cash flow to do other things with too. So as the first one was completed and up and running, it kind of was like, okay, maybe there is something here. But then after 2, 3, 4, it's kind of a bit more like, okay, this is absolutely something that's going to work for us. It's going to benefit us and our family in the future. So let's, do as many of these as the bank will allow us to, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're here, and she probably still thinks I'm crazy.
I think it's worked out.
Yeah.
But you build confidence for sure. Once you get that first rental property and you're questioning all of it and it's expensive and there's renovations and dealing with the city. But once you get those tenants in there and it's like a couple months and rent's coming in, you're like, okay, I'm confident they're going to keep paying rent. You get that itch immediately, right? To buy the next one.
Yeah. And I mean, for us at first, I remember the first few years, we were probably within like $10 to $20 at the end of the month. Of just this is all the income we have coming in. This is all the income going out to not only service these properties, but also our lives and everything too. And I just remember how close we were with being very high debt to income as a ratio. We like multiple times we thought we were going bankrupt, and I forget who online I said, somebody said it, something to the effect of, if you don't think you're going bankrupt every 5 years, then are you really getting ahead? And I don't know, that kind of stuck with me. It's a very aggressive viewpoint,
Sure.
but living through it, I think it has some validity to it now.
Yeah. Yes. A good time to invest too, right? Like, how do you think things might have been different if it was like COVID years with the rate spike?
I don't think we would have been able to acquire as much as quickly. Obviously, with the market going up, we were able to refinance, like I say, some of these properties multiple times.
Keep rolling the debt over, and the numbers almost keep getting better.
That's right. And we always try to choose a tenant profile that's similar to ourselves. So someone that like 25 to 30 years old, we just kind of find a 25 to 30 year old. They're focusing on their careers. They have a lot of life changes. So there's not exactly a high tenant turnover, but every 2 years or so there is, which is kind of the sweet spot for us. We were finding we were able to go back up to market rent.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wasn't refilling these properties. I wasn't searching for someone new essentially every 11 months, which was too much because of everything else we had going on. So that's kind of usually the people that are in these properties for us.
Yeah.
Right.
Looking back, how stressed were you during this period?
Oh, super stressed. Yeah. I tell everybody now the gray hair I've got now just in the last 5 years from this.
Really? Do you have grays?
Yeah, it's hidden by the microphone right now. Yeah. But it was definitely stressful because there was a point where if one tenant had not paid, that could have sent a cascade down through everything else. Like I'm not kidding, we were within $10 or $20, everything coming in versus everything coming out. And it was like, you can't even afford McDonald's on that anymore. So it was no skip the dishes, no Uber Eats, nothing like that. Every penny was accounted for. So anything that happened that was unexpected, which is actually kind of, again, why I like the YNAB stuff. It would have definitely changed the business.
Yeah. Wow. What a period, eh?
It was.
So much growth in such a short amount of time.
Yeah. And it was a very good learning curve. It was a struggle at first, but you kind of learn that you can take on more and, how much stress you can actually have on your shoulders before you'll crack, and things that you do want to take on versus don't want to take on. It taught me the value of saying no to some things, because a lot of times I would say yes, even at my own detriment. Which now I have a much clearer understanding of.
Mm-hmm. Like, can you give me examples of that? Like what social events or stuff that would...
Yeah, just going out with friends, drinking on weekends. We don't really do that very much anymore. We're very, very mindful of where we're spending our time now, especially with having our son now as well too.
It's a big game changer.
Yeah, it is.
But even before that, I'm sure you had to adjust. Like if you're going to pull off what you're pulling off with your real estate portfolio, you can't be burning the candle at both ends, and especially if you're strapped on cash.
Exactly, and that's the other part of it too. It was the financial aspect of it too, because you can go spend $100, $1,000 even a night out drinking in a club with friends, doing whatever. The money just goes, and not having, like I say, the $20 to spend. We were kind of capped, being able what we could have done even if we had wanted to.
Did you ever question yourself during this time?
Multiple times. Yeah, multiple times. We were always like, are we crazy? Like, is this... Because you don't really see the benefit of it.
No, because, you're just reinvesting.
You're reinvesting.
And you're just taking on more and more work and responsibilities.
And it's the debt is the thing. Like, you do physically see these assets that are in front of you, but especially in the first 5 years, they don't really produce a great amount of cash flow. You don't normally, in a normal market, see a ton of equity gain in these properties. So definitely in the first 5 year period, I was like, why are we going through all this stress when ultimately, it will give us $200-300 of cash flow, but is, a $700,000 house for $200 cash flow at the end of the day worth it? And the amount of work and stress and everything, correlated to that. Yeah. We did tell ourselves that we had to get through that 5 year period just to actually see some gains from it, and some actual, any kind of investment that we had into it turn into profit or... Yeah.
I'm smiling because my buddy, my joint venture partner that I own almost all my properties with, Adrian, at one point, like 3 or 4 years into our journey, he's just like looked at me and he's like, when are we supposed to see the benefits of this?
Yeah.
I started laughing. I'm like, it's a good point, actually. Like, we just taking on more work and responsibilities.
Yeah. I tell people that I find it's generally the 5 year mark. I have a lot of clients now, kind of my own age and younger, starting to invest in transforming these single family properties into duplexes and stuff, triplexes. And it's tough because they're going through the same thing that I am. And I try to coach them through it. And it's just difficult to watch somebody go through the same thing. Like I know they will absolutely benefit from it.
Yeah.
Just living through it myself. But it's tough to watch. It definitely takes some character to get through continually spending your money, continually spending your time for not any kind of immediate gratification.
Yeah.
To come out of it. It is a long-term investment.
Just with a long-term vision and a hope for the future that this is going to pay off.
Exactly.
Right? Just faith.
Yeah. You have to have a long-term outlook, a long time horizon on these things. And I tell people that up front, like you should be owning these things for 20 years plus, I would say, to really get the most out of it. It's not like a weed stock that I can buy Friday night, sell Monday morning and it double.
Yeah.
It's not the same beast.
Yeah, it's not a short-term thing. So what have been the most challenging parts of the journey? Was it just managing the debt and managing it all?
Good question. At some point, it actually became just all the moving parts. When property taxes were due, what mortgage was coming out on what date, who had paid, who hadn't paid, sending utilities to tenants as well too, like their bills at the end of the month. I find for myself, it was just all the different things that you needed to like almost have like a list for myself.
Yeah.
Just to work through like a checklist. I'd go through the end of every month, just make sure that everyone had done what they were supposed to do. Everything was paid that was supposed to be paid.
Yeah.
But yeah, I believe my wife would say the amount of debt we took on was probably the hardest part. Because you go to bed thinking like, I owe millions of dollars to the bank.
I know.
If anything happens,
it's pretty
our health goes, if anything happens, it's a lot to pay back immediately, especially if a mortgage is called or something like that.
Yeah. Yep. I guess you were in such a growth mode, right? And just like
I was
leveraged to the hilt, and in a period of time and in your life, I think, where you were able to do that, obviously with a lot of sacrifice attached to it. But
I know myself, I was uber focused on the end goal of getting these things up and running, profitable, and it bettering our lives. And I was so focused on it not being able to go wrong. I almost didn't allow myself to be able to see the potential darker side of having all that leverage. And like I say, time commitment as well too, away from family and functions and stuff. It was definitely one of the bigger challenges, I would say. But like I said, just from my own personality, I know that I generally like to not look at the downside. Yeah. Just focus on the positive and pray. Yeah,
pray. Well, the downside can, scare you off. And I don't know. Like I have this analogy of just like, you got to like dig a hole and then just jump in the hole. And then you got to figure out your way out of the hole. Because if you're in a hole, like you got to get out. Like, or you die. Like it just in my analogy, right? Like you're in a forest, you dig a hole, you jump in, you got to get out, right? And in getting out of that hole, you're going to have to really build a lot of character and resourcefulness and grit and determination, because sometimes the hole is going to be so big, you doubt if you can get out of that hole.
Oh, for sure. And even in that scenario, like you're going to build skills that you didn't know that you first off even needed, wanted, or could have. But I've kind of found that like if you just kind of jump in head first and not worry about the what ifs, you're going to turn into the person you needed yourself to be in order to get through that.
Exactly.
And, the character growth helps in multiple different areas of life too. So it's been funny. I was never a great public speaker or anything like that going through school. And I found with being a landlord, sometimes you would have like a bunch of people in the driveway all wanting to see a unit at once. And it would force you into those situations that you didn't necessarily like.
Yeah.
So I can say that we've had maybe some character growth and some character traits come out of it that were unexpected, but ultimately have benefited.
Yeah. I found myself in that situation a few times where it's like, I didn't anticipate I'd be speaking to a crowd of 15 to 20 people today.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm doing a big property tour with like 20 people and I feel like a tour guide, right?
The one thing I like is like, it's less formal. Like, do you remember getting up in front of a class doing speeches?
Yeah.
That was horrible.
Nerve-wracking.
Oh my gosh.
Terrible.
I was the guy that would hide behind my cue cards, even if I had it or not.
Okay.
Go all kinds of red. In front of the school.
Yeah.
But
our skin tone doesn't help.
Yeah, no, it does not. No.
Yeah, people can tell when I'm embarrassed.
But standing in a driveway, pointing at things, talking to a bunch of people, it's a far less formal. So I just find that it's easier to be done.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, because that's a thing that I was, uncomfortable with, had to get more comfortable with too, is literally doing showings with big groups of people, remember my first property, I was explaining rent to own. In the first showing I ever did, we invited probably half of St. Catharines. Like, I swear we had like 30 people in the house, and just doing like, had my little rent to own sheet explaining how it was breaking down and stuff. And I'm like, I did not anticipate this.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I've done the same myself too. One of our first properties was going to be a rent to own. That's actually one that's not on this road that we're talking about. It was in Cambridge.
Okay. You got to crane that over somehow.
Yeah, exactly. So we initially meant for that one to be rent to own, and I found that people walking in off the street to come discuss that, they knew nothing about it, and a lot of them were thinking it was a scam or something. And why would I pay extra if I can rent the equivalent thing down the road for $300 a month less?
Yeah.
So it all came down to the education of it. But in that, you're right. Like you're doing
like a sales presentation.
You are
to a little group of people.
And again, it forces you to build these skills that you didn't know you were going to need, but you need them in the moment. So it does help. Yeah,
it's a much more dynamic business/investment than buying weed stocks in a brokerage account. That's for sure.
Yeah, like that I can do faceless in my van.
Yeah, on your toilet in the morning.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Whereas this, you are building a lot of skills. The reason I personally like my hole analogy is because with the hole, like, you're stuck in it. And I always was like, okay, now like I'm going to be forced to get out. Whereas, like, you know, I don't know if it's a healthy analogy or way to live your life though, because I'm like, why would you just dig a hole and jump in it? Maybe climbing mountains is better. But I like the fact that if you're stuck in a hole, you got to figure out how to get out. Yeah. And it's going to take everything in you if you dug too big of a hole, because it's like get out or die. And I'm painting a drastic picture, but it's just the analogy I like to keep in my mind.
No, I like it. It's a good analogy.
Really stressed out. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. It's just like, okay, like think of the other holes you got yourself out of, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of gives me some more confidence. Hey everyone, I wanted to quickly share my personal journey with the Rockstar Inner Circle. I joined Rockstar when I was 23 years old because I wanted to learn how to invest in real estate, and I was looking for the right people to guide me. What I didn't expect was how much more the Inner Circle would give me. It's not just about investing, it's about being a part of a community that is genuinely invested in each other's success. I've learned so much here, from real estate strategies to understanding the economy, personal finance, and how the whole money system works. I've gained the knowledge to build my own business, create my own assets, and leverage the biggest trends in the world. But more than that, it's the growth mindset and personal development that have transformed how I approach life and investing. Having a community of like-minded people to share wisdom, experiences, and lessons with has been invaluable. From finding tenants and growing a real estate portfolio to designing the life you want, it's been a game changer. Being part of the Inner Circle has completely changed my perspective on money and life. The insights I've gained have helped me make smarter decisions, and I'm now way more confident in my financial future. If you're ready to level up your investing, mindset, and your life, I can't recommend the Rockstar Inner Circle enough. It's not just a membership, it's an opportunity to design the life you want. Thanks for letting me share this with you, and I hope to see you in the Inner Circle soon. If you're curious to learn more, feel free to check out rockstarinnercircle.com/get-started for free resources and see if it's the right fit for you. Now back to the show.
And then going back to it, so that was property number 6 on the road. We bought another property on the other side of town, in Orangeville as well too. We called it the Grandma House. It was a 1955 bungalow, no basement, and it was just, nothing had been done to it since 1955. So we actually ended up ripping the roof off that, building a second story. And then in that time, that was when the East Coast was being hit by a big, I think it was Fiona, like the big hurricane that happened. So we had all this torrential rain come in and destroy the main floor. So it forced us to renovate the main floor
while the roof was off?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So we had all these tarps. I remember being up there at 2:00 in the morning, trying to fix all these tarps blowing around in the wind and stuff.
Oh my God. In the rain.
In the rain. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And that one, it was also, again, very crazy because we'd rented just to have enough money to do it. The unit that we were living on the road, we rented it out. So we had that house breaking even or cash flowing at the time. So we actually went and we bought a 27-foot camper trailer, and we parked it in the driveway of the house that we ripped the roof off. So we're living in the driveway while my wife is pregnant.
Come on, I didn't know this.
Kudos to her. Yeah. So we were living there. It took, we were probably in the trailer between 4 and 5 months. The end of it was about mid-December when we moved out. So I was trying to do everything to keep the water line, like literally a hose line from the house to the trailer to keep the water flowing, keep the heat on in the thing.
Dude, that's amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was the craziest thing was the wind that would blow underneath. It would just suck the heat out of the thing. So I used some of the actual cladding for the house that we were using to build a little container around the bottom of the trailer to keep the heat in.
Oh my God.
But yeah, like I say, she was pregnant in there. So that was...
Do you still have the trailer?
We do, yeah. It's we're just keeping it stored right now.
Is it back for the next house? That's
the joke, is that we're going to keep it just in case. But like I say, with one child here and then another on the way, we're like, should we trade it in for the bigger model for the next flip?
Yeah. Oh my God, that's incredible. Yeah. So what gave you the idea to rip the roof off in the first place?
It was just that the property was too small. It not having an actual basement makes a big deal in the usable amount of square footage of the house. Mm-hmm. And then with having the baby on the way, it just so happened that my wife's parents, they were selling their house and they were looking for something. With all the bidding wars happening, they weren't able to find anything. They were going 100,000 over, 100,000 deposit, and through COVID, none of these were winning. So we ended up just thinking, look, we could have the help with the babysitting and stuff too, as we're going back to work at some point. So we built the second story, we moved them in, and yeah, here we are today.
And you're still there today?
Still there today.
So why did you choose this project, which seems a lot more difficult than your other projects where you have the separate side entrance and you're just kind of renovating the basement, it's already set up, kind of cookie cutter, repeat process? Why did you go with this?
This one, we just wanted to do something that was a bit more, that we could build a bit more equity while doing it. We identified kind of like the best neighborhood in our town is Dead End Road behind the high school. And they're all like 1950, 1960 bungalows, tons of property. Like they're like 120 by 180, which is unheard of for in town. This one itself was also a corner unit. So I always thought going forward, once we duplexed the house, there was potential for a garden suite or something back there that potentially even we could sever off at some point as well too in the future, should we need to. But we liked the amount of room that was offered in the neighborhood, a bit more privacy that was offered when we were kind of living amongst all our tenants. I just found that like we were asked to do things sometimes that, wouldn't normally be like a request through email or from a text message or something. It was just, just because of the convenience of being there. So we decided to kind of like remove ourselves from that situation, get this property, try to build some more equity as more of a long-term strategy, because the cash flow is more of an immediate thing. Like you can actually use that day to day. And we are building equity into these houses by transforming them into duplexes, but actually building like almost essentially a custom home in a good neighborhood, we found to be a huge build of equity.
Got it. So is the neighborhood.
That was the main draw. Yeah. And like I say, and the corner unit.
Yeah. And the further potential for the lot.
Yeah.
Okay. During the COVID years with interest rates spiking up, your property portfolio was able to weather that storm?
It was.
Numbers wise?
Yeah. So the ones that we bought in the first 2-3 years, they were the ones that ended up being refinanced. So those are actually the ones that, although we held longer, ended up being tighter on cash flow.
Burdens, yeah.
Just because of where the mortgage term kind of ended.
Yeah.
But the ones that we bought later in the portfolio, they were able to kind of just squeak through. And then I think we just took like a variable on them.
Okay.
And now as rates are falling, now they're the ones that are coming back into cash flow more so than the ones that we took originally as a 5-year and then as a 3-year. And then it landed at, 5.75, whatever interest rate. Those are the ones now that are coming up that,
so you had some fixed ones in there too?
We did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was about half fixed and half variable when we renewed them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, at what point did you get your real estate license?
Good question. That would be about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago now. I kind of just realized that while we were focusing all our money and effort really into these properties, I was still running the HVAC business on the side. And it was just kind of like a return on your time kind of thing, right? Like if I spend this money on this property, it builds a cash flow stream for life. Mm-hmm. Versus if I spend this time on this project in order for, just a dollar amount to be billed out, it's kind of finite. So I started learning kind of how my time was better spent. So we started spending it more on properties. And then from then it just became actually just educating some friends around buying their rental properties, how it could better their lives, better their families' lives and stuff. And then from there, I was just kind of like, it just felt right to get the license and like officially trade in real estate and help others and coach them into doing the same.
Yeah, which is what you're now doing today. So you're a licensed real estate agent with Rockstar. You're an investing coach. You're working with a ton of different people, first-time home buyers, investors. Are you predominantly in the Orangeville area? Are you going outside of Orangeville?
Predominantly in Orangeville. I am focusing, obviously, everywhere. Anything more north of Brampton is really where I'm specializing, though. But yeah, it's a lot of first-time home buyers, a lot of millennials, trying to teach them that what's advertised is that a millennial can't afford anything anymore. But it is possible, and it is possible by these different approaches that are a little bit creative in some people's eyes. But it is becoming more normalized, having shared houses and shared spaces and different units in these properties to be able to afford a mortgage. And while owning isn't for everyone, like in my eyes, I believe that it is still a very good investment, just given our kind of economic state in this country.
Yeah. So if you're coaching a first-time home buyer and you're probably, most likely telling them to house hack or the potential to house hack, I'm guessing, right? So how would they finance the renovation if they're like, hey, look, I just got enough to buy the house? Is this like a longer-term play to do the reno? Is it do as much yourself as you can? How are you coaching them through actually doing it?
It depends on the clients themselves.
Yeah.
So sometimes they are handy people or they are trades guys, so they do understand kind of what's involved in the whole process. Sometimes they're not, and it comes down to hiring the stuff out. And then sometimes it's just buy a good single family property that works as a single family property. And then going forward, instead of just selling it and buying another bigger home, you could potentially keep it, turn it into a duplex or a triplex or whatever, refinance that, and then use that money to go and buy your next.
Yeah.
But I am finding that family loans are becoming a bigger thing, like the bank of mom and dad.
Yeah.
Them having a HELOC, gifting some money to the kids to be able to either duplex it straight away or just as the down payment in order to acquire the property. And then, yes, like I say, for some of them, it is a longer term play where maybe it is a single family property for a couple of years until they're ready to move on. Something changes in their life. But yeah.
Isn't it crazy that our whole economy is basically based on debt? Like even the kids that are getting money from their parents as a gift to buy a house, to take on debt, is debt taken from their house?
It's essentially like the shuffle of money. Like
Yeah.
it's like definitely is there value created in some sense? Yes, just because of the densification. But essentially, yeah, it's like your parents have this equity in their house. You're borrowing it from them to achieve a goal of yours.
Yeah, to go borrow more money.
To go borrow more money. And then at some point, you need to consider potentially giving that back as well, too.
Yes.
So it's...
To give it back, or then to leverage your equity that you've now built up to then buy that second property, keep the rental like you talked about.
Yeah. And
buy another rental.
Yeah. And it's a tricky mindset to stay in because generally, we'll go buy a house, then we'll go buy some fancy cars. And then, 10 years after having kids, you'll go buy a cottage. And that's kind of, to me, like the normal...
Cookie cutter.
Yeah, of how it happens. But that doesn't work like that in the bank size to be able to acquire an actual rental portfolio. You need to start with income in their eyes. Otherwise, you hit your debt limit, your total debt service ratio so quickly that they'll never give you more money in order to continue. So that's why for us, we bought something knowing we couldn't afford it, to immediately turn it into a rental to make sure that at least 80% of the actual debt that we took on would be covered by this rent to be able to continue moving forward.
You're doing such a service for people, man. Like if I was a 23-year-old first-time home buyer and I met you and I didn't know about any of this stuff, like what a service that you're providing, man. And I genuinely mean that, because to understand debt creation and creating income streams and how to screen tenants and how to create that unit and which units can qualify for it and the bylaws and the zoning and the actual renovation procedure and what that looks like and what you can do on your own, what you can hire out, like all of those skills and expertise that you've built through your own journey, not to mention the character building that you can give them, motivation for themselves. Like it's just, I wish I kind of had that when I was like younger
Thank
to
you.
like have somebody walk me through that, right?
It is difficult. I mean, you have to have an open mindset, I would say, to be able to hear it out. Because when you hear it just from the beginning, it sounds a little crazy. Most people aren't aware even that you can refinance a house and use that money as the down payment on the next. To hear about how to move all the money around, figure out zoning, dealing with the town, building permits, inspections, dealing with the tenants themselves, what their expectations may be. There is a lot of education around just guiding someone through the whole process.
How did you learn this for yourself?
The whole analogy. We just got into it, didn't know what we didn't know.
Yeah.
I think if we knew what we knew now, there would have been a chance that we might not have actually stepped into it and done it. But I'm absolutely glad we did, because it's benefited us huge. And like I say, now we're able to educate others around it as well too. And I don't know, it's tricky with just how the economy is here. Like if you say most people earn what, 60,000, 80,000 a year, would you say the average Canadian?
Sure.
In there?
Yeah, it's probably gone up last few years, probably
80,000. If you look at one of these duplexes, they generate $60,000 a year. Orangeville in particular, we're looking at about $2,650, $2,700 as a 3-bed, 2-bath upper, and then $2,300 down as a 2-bed, 1-bath, both plus utilities. So if you consider that $60,000 there, I always joke with my wife, it's like having another person in the marriage. Like there's another person there bringing in $60,000 a year. And then as many of these things as you can acquire, it's just another amount of money from every different source coming in, and it just propels you forward higher than inflation is happening and other things, to be able to get yourself kind of out of the rat race.
Yeah.
And just take some time to slow down, look around, understand what's going on around, and then you can focus back on the business again and say, okay, how do I refine this a little bit? How do I grow this if I want to? Or how do I continue this moving without me involved? Like, how do I get a property manager involved and remove myself?
Yeah. Do you feel like you're out of the rat race now?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
At what point did you get that feeling?
The funny thing is, it was actually as our son was born. It just, I don't even know how to explain it. It just gave us a totally different outlook on life. And it was just like, we didn't need to work in our business anymore. Like, I wanted to spend more time with him as he was growing and developing and stuff. It was really kind of the kick in the butt that I needed, I think. But
to what? Kick in the butt for what?
Just to focus more on family and focus on, like actually how you spend your time, and not needing to be somewhere at 8 o'clock in the morning and someone having control over what you're doing at 1 o'clock on a Thursday. It was that sort of stuff that I learned, like it's important, if you can get yourself there, to be able to do that. And by being able to do that, at 30 years old, I have a much different outlook than a lot of my friends do at this point now. Like I say, a lot of them are struggling with payments on things and where interest rates are and that mortgage refinance coming up. And again, what if something unexpected happens in life? Having all these different income streams, you almost like build financial insurance into your life. That if something happens, you're like, okay, I just got to move this around, do this, and
security.
Yeah, exactly.
You're no longer financially insecure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So no, I don't anymore. We can go to the cottage on a Wednesday and come back on a Friday and not have to go with all the traffic.
Yeah.
The 400 to Perry Sound.
Crazy.
It's nice. Yeah.
So your friends, have they asked you about your journey? Like, they've obviously seen you go along with it. Like, have they done any of this themselves?
Yeah, some definitely have. Some understand it, but don't take action. And I don't try to force it on anyone, because it really is not for everyone. It really does take a certain character to be able to take this on. Some of them just say that, I can't believe you can sleep with that much debt. Like, I wouldn't be able to sleep. And if that's the case, we can have a discussion about like writing down, like, what are your main objections? What are your worries? And then we can write out some solutions to what those might be. But if that doesn't work and you're still just overall anxious about the whole thing, like I understand. So I don't really push people towards that, but some have taken me up on it. Some have gone and bought properties, and like say they're in that first 5-year cycle. Some are starting to come out and starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not not as crazy coming down to, like I say, the last $20 of every month.
Yeah.
Anymore. It's just, it gives you options and opportunities and.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
At what point did you become a Rockstar member, and why did you join?
I think I became a Rockstar member probably 7 or 8 years ago.
Okay.
Started as an inner circle member. Then after a year, went up to a VIP, and it was just for the networking. Mm-hmm. I personally love Tom's economic update. That's one of my favorite things from day one.
Yeah.
And with becoming the VIP, I was able to get that extra economic update, like the more in-depth one, and twice as many a year.
Yeah.
So that was the big draw for me at first. It was approximately 8 years ago. And then, like I said, I was a VIP member for about 5 years before becoming a coach, and trying to teach people the same, bring them into the fold of understanding all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. What do you get out of that economic update? Like, how did it help you, especially back in the day?
It's just invigorating. I almost found, like, it was like, we used to have 4 a year. So I just found at the end of every quarter, I was almost like, I was tired. I was beaten up. I was just like, the amount of stress and debt and everything was weighing on me. And I just found like the energy Tom brought to it.
Yeah.
How the world's going to shit, but it's all going to be okay because.
Yeah.
That gave me the energy I felt like to take on the next 3 months.
Yeah.
Where I knew my battery would be depleted again, and I'd go get the next refresh again.
Yeah. And for the first half of his talk, you're just utterly depressed.
Oh yeah. Like, it's like the world's ending.
God, the
Why
world
have I
is
worked
ending
so hard? Why did I do any of this?
Yeah.
But by the end, it's like, but if you do this,
he brings it around.
Safe.
He brings it around, to give him credit. Yeah. I always love those. Obviously, those are a big hit.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Now you're looking at Florida. So talk to me about Florida and why you're looking down there.
For us, it's I've always had a draw to Florida. I don't know why. I think for myself, largely, it's just the weather. Like, I am probably the worst Canadian you'll ever meet. Like, I don't snowmobile, don't, go.
No?
Do
Orangeville
anything.
Guy? Nothing? Didn't you dirt bike when you were a kid?
I did dirt bike, but it's warm.
Yeah.
So that I'm okay with. But yeah, like no skiing, no snowmobiling.
No hockey?
No hockey. No, I can't even skate, man.
No?
No.
Okay.
I'm telling you, the worst Canadian ever.
Yeah.
And I hate
Orangeville is a pretty Canadian place. It was only like 30 minutes north of me. I grew up in North Brampton, but like Orangeville, those are like, like country guys.
Oh, we put out some actual NHL players from Orangeville. Like it's cool. But again, it's never been me. So at first the draw was just get away from the cold. Mm-hmm. But then we started learning more about the actual rental market down there and how it's different, the same and different from up here. And there was just so many factors that it made it feel like home, but with palm trees, essentially.
Totally. Yeah.
And I was just like, how can you argue with that? And the ocean's there, and it's if you're an entrepreneur, I think there's more opportunities, and you can be more driven down there, and you don't look as crazy as you might look here if you're really outwardly driven. You
think it's like the mindset of people down there?
Yeah.
Primarily speaking, or do you mean in other ways too, like taxes, regulations, laws?
I guess all of the above. Yeah. Like it's definitely more friendly towards an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Taxes are less. There's far more businesses. There's far more people. There's far more industry down there. And then with more people, obviously more housing is needed, right? And
a lot of people moving there right now.
There is
big population increase numbers.
There is. Yeah. They had different COVID restrictions, I think, than a lot of the rest of the country. So I know a lot of people flocked there because of that, and a lot of industry did as well too. Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget going to the Miami 2022 Bitcoin conference.
Yeah.
And I think, was that my first time in Florida? Might have been first or second. And no, first. Yeah. And, just like we were fully like locked down here. Like I was doing the COVID tests and everything just to get on the plane, the mask. And then you land there and it was like COVID wasn't even happening.
Yeah.
Not a single person was wearing a mask. I think I saw one person and you looked at them like, oh, what's wrong with that person? Like they must have COVID with that mask on. Right. It was just very free, very open, very different mindset. The warm weather really helped because it was like April. And I was like, get me the hell out of here. And I was like, oh man, it's just a different vibe there.
Yeah. So, I agree. Like the other draw is obviously the opportunity for rental market there as well too.
Yeah.
So you have straight rentals, but then you also have a lot of Airbnbs and stuff too, right? A lot of kind of vacation homes. So we're going down. We're looking at some Southern Impression homes, looking at all their different models and stuff too. And I'm going down with all the tours that Rockstar is providing to all our.
You've been down once or twice already?
No, 3 times now.
3 times.
3 times, and I'm
to do
going
a tour
again in
with
May.
Southern Impression.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, you're all over it.
Yeah.
Because I think you did one private one with them, because you're already down there, right? So you met up with Jen, I think, and did it with her.
Yeah.
And you did a group one. I didn't know you did 2 group.
2 with
ones.
Nigel. Yeah.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
And then another
we're
one
going down
before the cruise.
May. Yeah. So we're going to Ocala. Now,
Sweet.
Right?
And then we're cruising, baby.
That's right. Yeah, the 4-day cruise.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So yeah, Rockstar is doing our first ever 4-day cruise, and that's May 1st to 5th. And I think there's still some spots on the boat. If you're interested, reach out to us. We're doing a cruise. So
It's a good group of people coming as well too.
yeah. And then we're tacking on this Florida property tour right beforehand for anybody that wants to go check out these Florida rental properties.
Yeah. So we've got a 2 or 3 day tour, Ocala and Citrus Springs. And then from there, I believe we're going down to is it Cape Canaveral.
Cape or Port Canaveral.
Something like that.
Where the cruise ship
But it's
launches
going down
from.
to, I think it's Nassau.
Yeah, Bahamas.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the Bahamas.
Somewhere down there. Yeah. And we have a few conferences on the boat planned.
Yeah, some seminars. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So a little bit of work, a little bit of fun.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, mostly fun. Let's be serious.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But it should be good. It should be informative. And like I said, then we get to add in the Florida aspect to it as well.
Yeah.
Which is great. Because I am finding a lot of members now too. They're not only they're looking for to balance their rental portfolio, have some rental properties here, some there, but also they're looking for different lifestyle properties. So we're finding that a lot of them are going down and looking for their own property, something on the water or something, unique.
These are Rockstar members you mentioned?
These are Rockstar members, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally. We're definitely seeing that.
And then from them, they're either purchasing them and using them as Airbnbs, or they're just staying in them 3 to 6 months a year, and just like myself, trying to avoid the cold.
Yeah.
Going down there for the winter and then coming back here for the summer.
So you did that last winter?
We did 3 months down there.
And you're planning on it again?
Hopefully this time we're looking more seriously to buy something. We got a midterm rental down there last time, just north of Naples.
Okay.
So it's like a beautiful area. Luckily we missed all the hurricanes and all that stuff, which is nice. But yeah, this time we're looking to actually purchase something, start investing down there, move some money down there.
And are you offloading any of your properties here to do so, or you think you're going to keep what you have here and then just expand to Florida from here?
Exactly, yeah. So we're going to keep what we have here, refinance again, 1 or 2 or potentially even 3 of them to get enough money as the down payment down there. The interesting thing about down there, and this is kind of how it's affecting our portfolio, here in Canada, there's a total debt service in your name. So you need to have enough income to be able to qualify for a new mortgage or to be able to refinance the equity that is in any of your properties. The interesting thing, so we're kind of capped out here, but the interesting thing about the States and Florida in particular is there's something called DSCR loan. So if there's any opportunity for it to make income, like as a rental property, long-term, mid-term, or an Airbnb, there's a 1-to-1 ratio. So as long as it makes $1 more of income than the entire year's expenses, they will give you the loan not based on it actually anything to do with your income. So you have to prove the 90-day history of where the money's coming from, but they do take it from a HELOC in a Canadian property. But as long as and they even qualify Airbnb income. So you can go down there, spend the winter down there, which is, yes, the high season, so you might not maximize the profitability of it. But if you go down there and then rent it out during the summer when you're presumably back here, if it makes enough, and some properties do, you can actually get a mortgage down there on that and it not actually affect your debt to income, which is what kind of limits us up here.
Limits you.
And that's like, we're up here right now, my wife and I, we're kind of capped. The bank has said, like, no matter, like, we need to make a substantial more, a lot more money up here.
Or have that paid down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the thing is like with paying down debt, you don't get that same return on your money.
Yes.
Like for us, we're trying to keep everything at the 80% LTV, just because it is a high leverage and it is very risky, and I don't recommend it for everybody. But if you're highly leveraged, the return you make on the actual money you have in these properties is
amplified.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're trying to keep the debt high here to be able to make the most out of it. But But then that kind of hurts us in the other way of us not being able to get another mortgage because our income's not high enough to quantify another loan. So
it's clearly just such a natural next step for you.
It is, yeah. It kind of fits in the whole path of where everything's going, where we can still acquire another property. It kind of ticks that box. It ticks the box for being, like a lifestyle change for us as well too.
If you do the vacation Airbnb route.
Exactly.
Because you're also looking at like the Southern Impression rentals too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that DSCR loan, that applies to both. So you can use Airbnb or long-term income. And they are aware that for Canadian buyers, we are accessing that DSCR loan. And that's kind of how we are buying a lot of their properties down there.
Is this the mortgage broker through Southern Impression Homes
it is.
that you're speaking to about this? Yeah. So what are the minimum down payment requirements for anyone that hasn't looked into this for these mortgages?
They do have a few different ones, but my understanding is the best way to get kind of the best of all the different scenarios is 25% down.
Okay.
So the only thing then you have to consider about is the Canadian dollar to the US dollar.
Yeah.
It's quite low.
Yeah.
So not only do you have to put 25% down, you have to figure in that
the conversion
exchange
cost. Yeah. You're taking a big haircut on the way in.
You are.
Once you're in, it's great.
Well, that's the thing. And that's how I try to explain it to investors. While you are paying that exchange up front, you are also earning your rent in American dollars.
Yes.
So it does work out the same, because if you ever want to pull that money back out of the country, you'll get the exchange back the other way.
Oh, you'll be living like a king here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Buy up half the country at a discount.
Yeah. So that's kind of how we're finding. A lot of people are doing it. Right?
So I think the down payment ranges that I've seen, at least from Southern Impression, has ranged from 25 to 40% down. Like a 30% option, maybe 35%, I don't know, but then a 40%. So why do you think that 25% is the sweet spot?
I just find it's more accessible to most. Like, you can put less money down.
Yeah.
So it does come with the problem that you need to absolutely make sure that the income of the property will satisfy the actual debt, with having a higher debt ratio on the property.
I guess that's the tricky part with the Airbnb. You got to really be sure on your numbers.
That is. So in that case, they'll actually use a local appraiser down there, and they'll compare it to other Airbnb properties, and they will only use kind of the worst of every month on average. So they'll take low season, mid season, high season, use all those different numbers. But then,
so they're very conservative.
They are absolutely conservative, because it's not a guarantee, it's not a given. Whereas a long-term rental, again, it's not a given or absolute concrete, but that's safer.
It's like they learned something from 2008 or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, you never know.
Being a bit conservative these days, maybe a little too conservative.
Yeah. Well, for us investors,
Yeah, it's always too conservative for us. We're like, I want 100% financing, and you give me money on closing.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Okay, so then the Airbnb, Southern Impression, so they've got single families, duplexes, quads. Are you looking at one in particular that you like?
The duplexes speak to us.
Yeah.
We like that if a tenant were to move out, and if it takes you 30 or 60 days to fill it again, you still have the income of the other side.
Yeah.
Whereas with a single family property, you most likely still will fill it very quickly, but there could be, a couple weeks, a month, 2 months in between where there might not be income. And then you need to foot the bill. We need to do, like I say, the Canadian to US dollar exchange to be able to cover the bills down there. So I like the fact that with a duplex or even, again, one of the quads that they have available, that you could leave some money in a bank account just in case a tenant does move out. There's a couple months rent there just in case to cover itself until you're able to fill a unit again.
Yeah.
And
the quads are awesome. The only problem is they're like $1 million.
Yeah. Yeah, they are expensive, but they're a good investment vehicle. I feel like I feel like they're going to appreciate well as things get more and more people move down there as well too, and things become more expensive. The units rent for a little bit less than they would in the single family or the duplex.
Yeah.
But being four of them,
the income's better.
The income's better, exactly.
Yeah. Is there a certain area that you're looking at in particular for the rentals and for the Airbnb?
It's a good question. I kind of liked. There was an area just north of Cape Coral, and they had the best numbers I found.
This is Airbnb wise?
Airbnb wise, but also Southern Impression Homes.
Oh, they're there too. Where's Cape Coral?
It's about 30 minutes north of Naples. So on the west coast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Over there.
Got it.
Yeah, but yeah, so they're a lower purchase price, and again, they offer the single family and the duplexes there.
Got it.
I think there are plans to move the quads there. I'm not totally sure, but they have a lower purchase price, and the rents are very comparable to other places as well too.
Yeah.
So the numbers are really good there if you're looking at it from a cash flow point of view.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And then you don't need a credit score either, right, to qualify for a mortgage?
No.
Would you start building one once you actually have the mortgage down there?
You would, is my understanding. Yeah. So the way we did it is we opened a corporation down there to be able to buy the property in, and then with that comes like the tax, the IEN number, I think it is, the tax number down there, and all those different aspects of it. And then obviously you need all the bank accounts to go along with that. And then with all that, I think would come an actual
start building a credit score, because you're still, I guess, personally guaranteeing this loan, because you have to show the cash even though you've set up the entity.
Yeah,
technically personally guaranteeing it, right? Like would this mortgage show up on your credit bureau?
That's a good question.
And
that one I would refer to my accountant.
Yeah,
but I think it would be separate from country to country. Like I think you'd show like a loan and income down there, which is why we have all our bank accounts down there, and why you need the IEN number down there versus all the different corporations and stuff we have up here to run the rental business up here.
Got it. So even though you're incorporated up here, at least on some of your properties, you still need to personally guarantee those, right? Because they're all residential still, because we're looking at only 2 units or 3 units maybe max for your properties.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And also when we started incorporating them, they didn't have a history. So with them not having any income to show or any savings to show, you need that personal guarantee to be able to help them be the actual owner of the property instead of yourself. Yeah.
At what point did you decide to incorporate up here at all to start buying?
I was told by my accountant that the threshold was essentially $2 million. So at the $2 million mark, anything less than that, the actual cost of filing for all the different corporations involved would be more than the savings you would actually have from it. The other aspect of it, though, is the actual like liability coverage that the corporation gives you. So if anyone were to fall on a property or get hurt or something happened to a trades guy or something, the corporation is the entity that's, I guess, essentially sued instead of you personally.
Yeah, so, severing the link to all your other assets.
Exactly, yeah.
So it gives additional liability protection beyond just the property insurance, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, and that's $2 million total property value?
Total property value, yeah. Again, I'm sure it is different for everybody.
Sure, I know, yeah.
But
I'm asking accounting questions.
Yeah,
here,
that's essentially the threshold.
Might be valuable for
explained at, yeah.
Okay, so then you talked to me about this really interesting opportunity you might have to crane in and drop in some garden suites on all these properties.
Yes, yeah.
Right, so now James Street, I don't care what the street name is, we're calling it James Street from now on, is adding some further densification maybe. So can you talk about any of that?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Because it's absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
Crazy. So like if you're an investor, tune in for this part right here.
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is we have all these duplexes and they're taking care of themselves, they're doing their own thing. But it is a business ultimately, right? So we're always trying to maximize the income from these properties. So they all have backyards, obviously in the back of them. They're all 35, 38 foot wide by about 50 foot deep. So I've found a company, I'm not going to mention the name just because I haven't gone through the whole process with them yet, and I want to make sure all goes well. But I found essentially it's a garden suite company that builds their own units. They have a studio, a 1-bed and a 2-bed. And they will build these on site for you, all within 75 days. But the interesting part about this company is they provide financing. And it's unsecured financing. So although we're kind of tapped out in the financial system here, because this builder is offering their own in-house financing, we're able to purchase these for essentially 100% financing. We put $1,000 down. I know, crazy, right?
Crazy, man.
$1,000 down. And so we're starting the process on the first one. So
these things will cash flow.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the rental income will cover.
Yeah. So for the backyard space that we have, there's a 5-foot offset from the backyard and a 5-foot offset from both side fences. So that's the kind of requirement for Orangeville, but that will change municipality to municipality. So in that space, we were able to put in the 1-bedroom unit. That thing costs $19,000, installed all the utilities hooked up. They took care of all the permitting, the permits for it, and even like all the appliances are included in it. Like it's turnkey, completely turnkey. So that thing at $218,000 financed, I think it was like $1,500, $1,600 a month. You will see a little bit of an increase on your property taxes, and there's obviously some insurance and stuff like that too. But for one bedroom in Orangeville, essentially it being its own contained unit, I'm almost classifying it as like a detached property. So we'll be renting it out for about $2,300. So if, like I say, if it costs 15, 16, maybe even let's say 1750 when you include property taxes and insurance and stuff. If you rent it out 1750, and we're getting 2,300 for it, we have a pretty good cash flow on that. And then we're going to try and put a garden suite in every single backyard of this road, of all the properties we own there. To just really increase the densification.
That's there. Insane. What an opportunity.
It is. We came into this year, and you know how everyone makes like their New Year's resolutions? Mm-hmm. My big one was just, I felt kind of like I became almost on autopilot, and I was like, okay, our life, we got lifestyle creep. It came up as, we were bringing in more income from all these different avenues. And I was kind of like, okay, it feels like it's time to build another income stream. Like we need something to continue the growth and not, go backwards. So it was really chewing away at me for a few weeks. I really could not figure out what that was. I was thinking about like rental arbitrage, the Amazon stuff, trading different cryptocurrencies, all different kinds of things. And I was like, I don't really know enough about that. Why don't we just focus on something we really know well?
Yeah.
And it was actually you on a podcast. You were talking to somebody and you guys were discussing garden suites. And I just kind of clicked in my head and I was like, oh my God, that is exactly what we have to do.
Oh my God, whatever I said must have been brilliant.
It was. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was, man. No, I'm serious. It was, because I was like, oh my gosh, we have all this unused land in the back.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's a huge space. Like it's, like I say, some of them are 40 foot deep, the backyard from the house.
Yeah.
Which gives us the offset from the house, and then the offset from the back and the offset from the side. Gives us just enough space to stick one of these 1-bedroom units in.
Crazy.
And yeah.
So they build it on site. They're not craning it over the house, right?
No. So after discussing with this company, what I've learned is that a lot of insurance policies will not cover you if a unit is craned over the top of your house. That's not in your insurance policy unless you specify that you want it in there with some companies.
Wow.
So that's a big risk to take. And they only know that now because enough people are craning like pools and these garden units into the backyards. And some of them are falling out of these cranes, smashing through the house, and people are finding out that they're not covered.
Oh my God.
So it's something that we have to start discussing now, right?
Yeah.
So these ones are a bit more modular. So they pre-assemble them in a factory. But what I mean is they pre-assemble the floor first, and then they pre-assemble the walls. And so they'll actually kind of like hand bomb, like a couple guys. So
it comes like flat packed.
Sort of, yeah. So they'll kind of bring the floor system in, and they'll bring a wall system in, and they'll bring half the truss in, and the other half the truss in, and the roof system in, and then all the different utilities in, and it's all done in different segments,
yep.
Yeah, and then kind of all finished on site, as well as hooking up all the utilities to the actual house itself.
Interesting. So they just piece it together, but it's already all pre-built.
Essentially, yeah. So they say from the actual permit date to completion is 45 days, and then before that, from application to finish is 75 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's pretty quick. And them being sort of modular and, like I say, being only assembled on site helps with that.
And so you're building your first one now, right?
We're just in the, we've just poured the concrete pad. So they can either go on concrete pads in your back, or if your backyard's a bit more slopey, they can do those helical screws. So it's just like a gigantic screw goes in the ground, and they can actually build the platform on top of that, and then place the house on top of that.
Wow. And we're going to shoot a YouTube video.
We are, yeah.
Of this shoot a couple project. Of them, yeah. So we've already shot a couple. You had flipped a house in Orangeville. So we shot the video about the flip you did, which was really cool. And then we also shot another video on,
I think it was a single family to a duplex conversion.
Single family to a duplex conversion. That was, I think, your 7th property on that street.
That was the 7th.
And then we did a video just showing
walking up and down
your progression, of how you bought each house and what you did to accumulate it. So those are on our YouTube channel. So we're doing more and more in-person kind of property tours and showing different projects rockstar investors are working on. That's on our YouTube channel. Rockstar Real Estate or Rockstar Inner Circle. I think it's called Rockstar Real Estate.
Yeah.
Either way, it'll come up if you search it up. So we're going to do one on this garden suite though, because what an incredible opportunity. Because I think a big limiting factor to investors doing garden suites so far has just been the cost and the financing.
Oh, it is. Yeah, exactly.
Because you have to self-finance them. And if you're going to spend 200, 250, 300 on a garden suite, you got to come up with all that money. So you're like 100% financing the whole thing.
You are. The one interesting thing is CMHC this year, they've come out with a new loan program. So what essentially it is even if your property's at 80% LTV, they'll allow you, provided your income's good enough, to go up to 90% LTV to take out up to $80,000 on your primary residence. And it's a 2% interest rate over 15 years. So the stipulation is you have to use that money to increase densification. So either build a second, third, fourth unit on your property. And that really helps your numbers, like a 2% interest rate payable back over 15 years. So we're using that 80% as essentially like the down payment on the property, even though it's still financed, because it's still our equity from a property that we already own. So it still is essentially 100% financed, but it's nice having this $80,000 put down on the actual cost of the unit, as the builder charges a higher interest rate than what CMHC does. So we're kind of doing like an arbitrage between the different.
Wait, you're gonna have to slow this down for me. You lost me.
Okay, so
CMHC, you can pull if you have 80% equity. You said. No. So they'll allow you to go up to 90%. Up to 90. Okay.
Yeah.
Up to 80 grand.
Up to 80 grand.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you're allowed to use that 80 grand to increase densification. So either turn a single family into a duplex, triplex, or a duplex into a triplex, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
If you add another unit, they'll allow you to apply for this loan. So it's $80,000 at 2% over 15 years.
And you have to pay it over the 15 years?
You do.
Okay.
But presumably the way things are going over the next 15 years, our properties should 100x.
Yeah.
I hope not. I hope not 100x. But they will potentially, go up 50%, maybe even double. Who knows? Whatever the case may be. So you'll take out this $80,000, which is a much lower interest rate than what the builder offers. So we're moving the $80,000 as essentially like our down payment on this garden suite, and then we're financing the remainder with the builder. So if the unit's $220,000, we're taking 80 with CMHC.
Got it. I see.
And then we're doing the other.
So you're doing 80 at 2%.
Yeah.
And then you're doing
like the other, whatever that number is, 140.
And what is the interest rate?
7%.
7.
Yeah. So it's not unheard of, especially unsecured for a product they offer.
So this is 100% what you're already doing.
We're doing it.
You got this approved through CMHC.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So different banks are offering it and others aren't. So TD, we learned, is not. Most of our banking's with TD. They're not offering it. So Scotia does, CIBC does. I know a lot of credit unions do, and a lot of B lenders.
Okay. And you worked with a mortgage broker to set that up?
We did. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. So, and is that how you came up to your numbers of about 1650, you said? Yeah.
So we got...
That's including that 80% at 2%.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you were to finance the whole thing with the builder, obviously that would be much more, because you'd have that 80% then at 7% instead of at 2%.
Sure.
So that would, but
you'd probably still cash flow.
That's what I was going to say. Even if you did that, you would still have a fairly good cash flow numbers. Because if you think of what a normal duplex throws off as cash flow anyways, even if, that 220,000 financed at 7%, let's say it was 17 to 1900. If you're still renting this thing out at 23 plus utilities, you're still going to get at least $300 a month in cash flow.
Yeah. Wow.
Which, for such a small purchase price.
So it has to qualify for the CMHC loan, it has to be the same property. Like you pull it out of that property, do it on this property, and then do you have to qualify for that loan in terms of debt ratios?
Yeah, exactly. So
you still have to qualify.
Presumably you'll be able to. Like it's $80,000. It's not like you're going for another $700,000 mortgage.
Oh, I don't know. The way you're talking, man, I'm surprised you got it.
Well, I know. Yeah. So you have to go through the application with every single property.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you're going to get like a car loan or something. Like you're applying at every property that you want to put one of these things in.
Interesting.
To get this loan. Yeah.
Wow. This is so cool, man.
Mm-hmm. And like the thing is it's accessible to pretty much everyone that has a rental, because presumably every rental property has a backyard. Yeah,
it makes me just think like, man, if like winning just begets more winning, like
action begets more action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely has rewarded people that have taken action, or
For sure.
just homeowners in general are going to keep getting rewarded.
Yeah. I mean, asset owners will, naturally benefit the most.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, I guess, what we teach.
Yeah.
Everyone to be an asset owner.
Yeah. Crazy. Just like unforeseen opportunities. Like,
yeah, it is. And the funny thing is like, I would have never thought this when we bought these properties. The end goal was them to be duplexes, and whatever the cash flow was that they were all going to spit out,
that's what they would get.
That's what they would get.
Forever.
And, you know, maybe we do pay down the mortgages a little bit. Maybe we don't. That affects our cash flow a little bit, but nothing to the extent of putting a third unit into each of them and, you know, getting...
And being able to finance it.
Exactly.
Private financing,
Yeah,
the CMHC density.
Yeah. The stars kind of all aligned. Like the CMHC program did previously exist, but it was only $40,000. And I think the requirements were a lot more.
Yeah.
But it was just like the third week of January of this year, it changed and it became $80,000 at a lesser interest rate for a longer period of time to increase densification.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is going to blow people's minds.
Yeah. Not a lot of people are talking about this right now, but it's because it's such a new program. And again, it's not all banks are offering it just because of it is increasing people's loan to value, which not all banks like you to have an extremely high loan to value, especially above 80%.
Yeah.
If it's not insured, like through CMHC or something like that.
Well, even just this company that you're working with, like to finance them with putting 1,000 down.
Yeah, they're not a massive company. So I think they told me at the time, I think they're doing about 15 of these units or so a year.
Yeah.
That's kind of with the crew and, you know, the materials and everything like that. So it's funny though, but with us doing hopefully 7 over the next year, we've locked up about half or more of their year because they can't build them all in winter.
Yeah.
They said they can do if the foundation's in place, they can build up from there. But if the foundation's not there, then so yeah, we've kind of locked down approximately half the year of them just installing on this road here.
Yeah. Fascinating, man. It's awesome. Like you have a clear pattern, and I don't mean to stroke your ego here, genuinely. You have a clear pattern of winning.
Oh, thank you.
The weed stocks.
I don't know I feel that way, but
to the duplexes and stuff. And I know you've worked your butt off, but like, do you have some losses along the way? Do you like, what do you feel about that? Why do you feel like you've been able to time these things and keep running into these situations where it's like, oh, okay, well, this is just a natural next step, but it's like,
you know what?
You're stringing together a lot of wins here.
Yeah.
And I've noticed this about you, and I'm like personally asking because I'm just genuinely impressed by it. I'm like,
you know, man,
when somebody has a track record,
Yeah.
I just want to shut up and be like, well, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Because I want to learn.
I can't really say anything comes to mind. The only thing and it's probably because of all the wins, I guess. And again, I feel like we just got lucky and worked hard, and anyone can do it if you work hard enough, right?
Yeah.
I bought a new truck and I drove it off a lot and lost 50 grand. And I feel like that's probably the worst
That's
loss.
the biggest loss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah. Oh, maybe the same thing with the camper trailer in the driveway of the renovation.
But I mean, when you factor in the numbers.
Yeah, the equity gain we made on the property paid for that, and then we, you know, got some fun experiences out of the trailer with our son and stuff too.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's buying depreciating assets.
Yeah, if we got to figure out a way to better do that. We got to figure out a way
to buy more depreciating assets.
Buy more depreciating assets, but then not cost you anything. That's what we have to figure out next. I don't know how to do it, but
yeah, there was this Robert Kiyosaki example. I can't remember if it was in Rich Dad Poor Dad that always stuck out with me, and it was like,
you buy the cash flowing asset first to pay for the depreciating.
Yeah, like
it's done.
Was it a Ferrari he had?
It was, yeah.
So he had he wanted to buy a Ferrari.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, the quality of the questions you ask will determine the quality of, you know, the decisions you make along those lines. And questions open the mind where statements close the mind. So like, I want to buy a Ferrari. I can't afford the Ferrari.
How can I afford it?
End of discussion when you say I can't afford it. It's a statement.
Yeah.
Whereas how can I afford the Ferrari? Well, now you've got your creative wheels spinning.
Yeah.
And his solution was, I guess he had enough to buy a rental property, and that rental property's cash flow at the time produced enough money to then lease the Ferrari, I believe.
Yeah. Do the payment on it every month. Yeah.
So he still bought the appreciating asset, but with the revenue generated from buying that asset was able to get what he truly wanted, which was the Ferrari.
And at some point, the depreciating asset is paid off. And although it may depreciate, if you enjoy it or if it serves a purpose for your life, like fantastic, go buy that thing, whatever you want to do. But eventually that depreciating asset is paid off, and you still own this appreciating asset that not only is it cash flowing, its cash flow is probably better, and it's probably also appreciated in value too.
Yeah.
So you've had multiple wins with that asset, and still you get like the lifestyle fun and, you know, all that stuff from the depreciating asset.
Yeah.
Which it's funny. Like, I find the depreciating assets are the more fun assets.
Of course.
The cars, the trailers.
Yeah. Whereas the mistake is just jumping straight to those depreciating assets.
Yeah. If you go
that creates a financial trap.
Exactly. And then the thing is like, not only are you stuck into that payment, but then it also limits your options going forward. Like you potentially couldn't buy the house you want. It would really limit your decisions as to if you wanted to get into a rental property. Like the bank would use the payment of that asset, that depreciating asset, factored into your income, and maybe you wouldn't qualify all of a sudden for that rental property or whatever it is, that business that you want to buy or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So good decisions compound and bad decisions. They do.
If you can flip the script and do what's going to make you money first, and I forget the term, but it's like I don't even know, but do the thing that's harder up front and have it pay for everything else. Delayed gratification. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah. If you can delay the gratification and know that you'll go get whatever that fun thing is down the road after you accomplish what you know you should accomplish first in order to set yourself up, that's going to be the best. That's like the best advice I could give anybody. Because now, like say, my wife and I were in our early 30s, and we can mess around with all this stuff and not worry about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like say to any millennials out there, that's the advice I would give is focus on working really hard right now, using every penny you can acquire to buy these assets to make money, to then later in life go have fun with all your toys and stuff.
Yeah. And which assets do you recommend? Obviously real estate.
I'm real estate. Yeah. I strongly recommend Bitcoin as well too. But the interesting thing about there is that like you can buy Bitcoin, but it doesn't really produce a cash flow. Mm-hmm. So what I would really recommend is buy the income producing asset first, like buy a rental property first, or an Airbnb first, or anything that's going to generate income, cash flow, and then use that cash flow to buy Bitcoin from there. Because then you're getting the best of both worlds. Like let's say rental property, I think on average they appreciate at like 8% a year. Mm-hmm. Something like that, like more so in COVID, less other time.
Yeah, if we use 7%, we went back, we pulled the numbers all the way from 1969 in Toronto real estate prices. Yeah, and you can extrapolate that out to other areas of Southern Ontario, relatively the same. Maybe it's a little less than Toronto, but 7%. It was just over 7%. But then when we pulled it from like 2010, it was like 8.5% because we've seen a bigger run up in prices over the past.
So even if we use the lesser, like let's run at 7%.
Yeah, 7 is our go-to.
You have that running at 7%, but it's producing cash flow. And then if you can use that cash flow, like say in my eyes, to buy the Bitcoin, which again, you're going to know these numbers better than I do, but I believe it's appreciating at what is that, 40% a year?
Yeah, call it 50, 60.
Over a 4-year cycle.
I think it's 60% plus. If you go back all the way to like 2009, it's probably over 100% plus.
That's crazy.
80, 90, but call it right now 50.
Yeah, that's absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
So while I can see how some people would just jump straight into Bitcoin, the problem is the leverage. Is you can once you buy some, you'll never be able to buy enough. So if you can let's just freeze of numbers, $1 million property, you can put $200,000 down. The bank will give you $800,000, but you get control of $1 million asset, and it's paying you an income stream of $1 million asset, which then you can actually use that as more income to be able to go buy more Bitcoin.
As long as you can create income out of that asset.
Exactly. Yeah. But as a coach, I would not let you buy a negative cash flow property.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that sucks. You don't want that.
No.
You don't want to deal with that.
No, that's not an income producing asset. Yeah. Interesting. So Bitcoin for those kind of preserving your savings.
Yeah.
From your income producing activities, whether it's a business, whether it's you, whether it's your properties, whatever is producing that income, preserve it with Bitcoin, but create those different income streams in your life.
Yeah. And there's always something to be said for having some cash on the side just to stay liquid for an emergency or just for day-to-day expenses. But the more cash you do leave aside, essentially it's being withered away by inflation.
Yeah. So just operational expenses.
Exactly. Yeah. I would say anything from like 3 to 6 months operating expenses, like for your life as operating expenses,
Yeah.
is a good amount just to keep as a nest egg for a rainy day or like say for emergencies.
Yeah.
But anything beyond that, yeah, I would say have it invested somewhere that if it can at least create a cash flow or has a very high rate of return.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So what's next? Keep building the coaching business, keep building.
Yeah. Just try to, like I say, just try to help more and more millennials and those that feel like they just can't get into owning something, show them how it's possible through these different kind of creative methods. Try to double down there. Just like I say, show more and more. But at the same time, try to spend more time with family as well too. Just, leverage everything we've already built to be able to take more control of our time. And like I say, if I need to be somewhere at 2:00 on a Wednesday, I can be somewhere at 2:00 on a Wednesday. And that's kind of what's more important to me now. And it's funny, like I would only expect somebody like, older to say something like that.
Yeah.
But it's funny how those things change to you once you first have kids, and then also once you have the financial means to be able to do so as well too.
Yeah. Are you surprised that you were able to get there at the age that you did?
For sure. Yeah. So at first, like I say, my wife and I, we both had our full-time jobs. We kind of came up with this like scheme that was like, once we get to $10,000 in cash flow, we're going to quit. We're going to retire.
It's always 10,000.
Done.
That's the number.
Yeah. I'd set myself like when we were just started dating and nothing was like super serious at that time. I always thought to myself, my number was $6,000. At $6,000, I was going to retire and I was going to go all in on this. But then I learned, if I lose that income, I can't qualify for any more mortgages.
Yeah.
That we kind of had that set number. But then, you just, if you're the kind of person that can grow a business to that size, that character trait is in you, and you can't just, kind of like Robert Kiyosaki, you can't just flip the switch and turn that off. Like I think he has like 1,500 rental units or something crazy. Mm-hmm. Like that's bonkers. Mm-hmm. So if that's in you, I think you're always going to do that. And that's when you see like serial entrepreneurs like go from multi-billion-dollar creation of companies and then go and do it again and again and again. While you can take over, your time, I think that's going to stay in you.
Yeah. It's just in your nature. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you feel that way.
Yeah, I do. I know that's a part of me, and I don't know if that was natural or if I've built that over the years of just trying to take action everywhere just to make things happen the way we needed it to happen. Yeah. Because like I say, if things didn't go our way, we were really in a tricky spot.
Yeah, but clearly I think you would have figured it out, or you would have had to take the hit and then figure it out. Right.
The funny thing is,
it's not like you would have given up.
No, but I always I always think of like it's almost like lucky, or it's like affirmations, or for whatever reason, when we did have something unexpected happen, there would always be inversely something else that happened in order to bring more money in. Like I could go and do a big installation of some HVAC equipment that was going to be more profitable for some reason or another that some other company wouldn't take on. But if I went and did it, and it was more complicated than most jobs are, I was paying a higher return, and then that money was just enough to magically fix the problem that was an emergency on this side. So it was kind of interesting how it always somehow figured itself out. And I don't know if that's like the universe saying it, or that's just happened because that's the way I looked at it. I don't know. But I feel like that does happen if you look for it also.
If you're receptive to it happening.
Yeah. Like if you just know that things are going to work out, and there's a downside to everything, and like you could get in the hole and you might not know how to get out of it. If you just keep trying new things and you just keep sweating it out and putting like the sweat equity in to like just figure it out, it will happen for you. Like I can promise you that.
Huh. Yeah, that's cool. I think I've felt similar things in my life where it's like that happened at the right opportune time where I was like, I was screwed. Without it, to make a little bit of side money to pay for it. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, it seems like more and more people do have like side hustles now too, right? Like things going on the side, like to produce a little bit of income just because of how expensive things are getting now. Like it's a 9-to-5 doesn't always do what you need it to do anymore. Mm-hmm. And I'm finding a lot of people are having, 2 jobs, or like say a side hustle, or
something along those lines, just to be able to start, getting out of the rat race or getting their first asset or something along those lines.
How do you think things are going to play out from here?
It's a tricky question. The way I see it, like what I see on the streets right now is, it's kind of like multi-generational families are buying things. So we're not so much going out and looking for single family homes that are being turned into duplexes. Now I have a lot of clients that are looking for duplexes because it's like two brothers with both their spouses, and each one of them is living in, like, one upstairs, one in the basement, and all four people are going on title. And I guess they're splitting the equity 50-50 of whatever the, appreciation might be of the property. But they're actually getting that mortgage by putting four people on title.
Wow.
Or, like I say, it's like a family with kids upstairs and then grandma and grandpa are in the basement. And who knows, maybe there's, again, some money from mom and dad's HELOC goes towards helping with the down payment. It's that. And then on the other side, I find like units are starting to become smaller. So like what was a typical duplex in Orangeville 5 years ago is now starting to become like a triplex. So like they're going from 800, 900 square foot units down to like 600 or 700 square foot units, which is keeping the rent the actual same instead of it increasing. But there's 3 units there renting out for $2,000 instead of 2 units renting out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad. The general theme is you're getting less for your money.
You are, yeah. Your purchasing power is getting withered away by inflation.
Yeah. Yeah. They're continuously debasing us. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's, again, back to Florida. If we can start generating money in a stronger currency and then potentially bring it back into the country, gives you a bit more purchasing power again.
Yeah.
Having the stronger currency to be able to become more here.
Which is funny because whenever I thought about currency arbitrage before, I would think about moving to Thailand, living like a king and earning Canadian dollars.
Yeah.
The strong currency. And now it's like I'm thinking of, I need to be earning US dollars and then spending them in Canada to live like a king.
The funny thing is actually like a very good friend of mine, him and his wife, they moved to Spain, to Mallorca, actually. And so they both still hold Canadian jobs that they're working at remotely in Spain. They're being paid in Canadian dollars, but they bought something because it's so much more affordable in Spain.
Yeah.
And they're finding even there that their dollar is going so much further there.
Does Spain use the euro?
They do. But the funny thing is that just the cost of living is so much less. Although the euro is worth more comparatively to the Canadian dollar, their euro, their Canadian dollar, it goes further for them out there.
Yeah.
Rent's less. The mortgage is less. Food is far less. Transportation's way less.
I wonder why. I've wondered that about like Portugal and Spain, where the cost of living is a lot less than Canada. And like, I just don't understand why, because it's the euros is still a fiat currency. Perhaps it's slightly stronger than the Canadian dollar.
I don't know.
It's slightly debased less.
Maybe that's what I believe. I believe it's debased less. Yeah.
And just the compounding over so many years of like a 1% less debasement rate over the Canadian dollar has
adds up to a large amount. Yeah. But yeah, so that's what they're doing, and it's really benefited them. And they went out there more for the lifestyle themselves than anything else. But yeah, it's I've heard a lot of people say like the Thailand thing and the Vietnam thing, and there's another one too that like a lot of work for remote people go out to and do because the dollar goes so much further out there.
Yeah, yeah, Caribbean, right? There's different places, Dominican, even Mexico.
Yeah.
Could still be an arbitrage there.
Yeah.
Not fully unsure. But yeah, it's just interesting for me to now think about, okay, earn some US dollars, spend them here in Canada. Just obviously we've always had, parity differences, right, with our dollars, but we're always seen as, relatively stable.
That's the thing. And I mean, like the countries, while they have their differences, are somewhat similar when you compare us to other countries out there. But it's just so funny how different the currency is now as of the last few months.
That invisible line that Trump talks about, right? Once you cross it, things get a whole lot more expensive for some reason.
That's right, yeah.
Makes you question why. You start wondering why. What's going on? We're the same as them. Yeah. What is it?
Yeah. Yeah, where all those tax dollars are going.
Where are those dollars going? I want to know.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, interesting times.
Yeah.
Cool. Can we give out contact information, social media?
Yeah, for sure. Email to the brokerage for me is matt@rockstarbrokerage.com.
Awesome.
And then the Instagram is Matt S. James is my Instagram handle. So you can find me there as well too. And you can watch a lot of videos of flips in Orangeville and single family to duplex and own your own street and how a millennial can get out of the rat race and all that fun stuff.
And soon to be garden suite. How to finance a garden suite and build it in your backyard.
That's right.
75 days.
Yep.
I think it'll really be 75 days.
I hope so. Yeah. That's all I can say. We just started. At the rate we're going, I would believe it's true. So yeah, we'll get some good video content and make a couple cool videos.
Yeah. Awesome. What's the best way to reach out? Is it email?
Email. Yeah. Matt at Rockstar Brokerage.
Matt at rockstarbrokerage.com. And you'll be on the cruise. If you're interested in coming on the cruise or the next Florida tour, that's end of April 28th, is it?
Something like that. May 2nd to 5th, isn't it?
That's the cruise.
Yeah.
And then the tour.
Yeah, 28th to the 30th.
28th to the 30th.
The actual tour.
Yeah, so just send us an email at members@rockstarbrokerage.com if you're interested in either one of those. Those are going to be a blast. And that's it, man. Really appreciate you coming on, sharing your full story, letting me pick it all apart. Honestly, just as much for my own curiosity, because it's just been really inspiring, man, to see what you've built for yourself.
Well, thanks for saying that. And honestly,
and your wife as well. If she listens to this, she should know that she's just as much a part of it. And I know she was here for the first podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was. Yeah.
But she's done an incredible job as well because she's been a part of the whole thing, right?
Well, thanks. Yeah, I'll tell you said so.
Yeah, please do. Honestly, yeah. Cool, man. Appreciate it. All right, we'll ride. See ya.
Bye.